Welcome to my channel, Simplified English. Today we are going to focus on the English Literature May June 2018, Paper 1. That is the multiple choice aspect of this exam. For all my students who are having problems maneuvering through the paper, answering the questions, explaining your answers, explaining your thought process, how you got the answer, how you got there, this is the place to be. Before we begin the paper though, let me remind you that as English Lit students, you are going to be required and you are required to be able to read the extract, prose, poetry, and drama extract with understanding. You are required to analyze the elements of a literary passage and to respond to the nuances of meaning, tone, imagery, and style. You are required to interpret the metaphors, recognize the rhetorical and stylistic devices, as well as thematic concerns presented. You are required to identify the literary effects that are achieved and how they are achieved, as well as to make sure that you are familiar with the different terms for the different genres that are presented in the paper. I'm going to offer you two suggestions that I believe will help you to excel in answering the multiple choice aspect of the paper. Step 1, when you get in the exam on the day of the exam, when you're doing the exam, read the question and ensure that you understand the question. When I talk about understanding the question, I'm talking about understanding what it is asking you, understanding what it is saying, understanding what it wants you to do. If you're able to do that, then it makes step 2 easy, which is to interpret the question. Interpretation of the question is also important because you are doing 3 different genres, each genre with its own feature, with its own terms and special words, and you need to know these and understand these. If you are able to, then it makes interpreting the question and understanding what is asked of you easy. If you're able to do these very 2 things, then be sure that you are on your way to doing well on the exam. We're going to jump into the paper. So we're going to jump to the first section. The paper is divided into 3 sections. Section 1 basically focuses on the drama section, which comprises of 20 questions. It has items 1 to 10 and items 11 to 20. Those 20 questions are geared or created around 2 drama extracts. The second part of the paper is the poetry section, which focuses on 2 poetry pieces, 20 questions, 10 questions each. And the last section is the prose fiction section, which also has 20 questions. So in all, you will be answering 60 questions in 2 hours. A tip for you when you are answering the drama question or any drama questions for exam, I want you to remember that each genre, knowing that this is the dramatic section, the play, it means that the dramatic extract will want you to focus on dramatic techniques. So bear in mind that in this section, the first 2 sections, first 2 extracts, you are going to be looking out for dramatic techniques. Now, the dramatic techniques can vary. The dramatic techniques could be the stage direction, dramatic irony, the character's characterization, spectacle, monologue, aside, the use of props, suspense, the list goes on. Now, when you are reading the play, bear in mind that the play is meant to be performed on stage, which means that you have to keep all of these things in mind when you're reading it, trying to visualize, what it would look like, what the characters would look like based on the information that you are given in the stage direction and in the dialogue presented. I'm going to give you 2 minutes to read the extract, and then we will jump into answering the questions as they are presented. Your 2 minutes begins now. Let's jump to question 1. Question 1 says, the setting is most likely. So what I normally tell my students is please always look at words like these. Now notice that in the question, the word most is in all caps. It is telling us that there could possibly be more than one answer in the 4 options given that could be an answer. But the word most in all caps, followed by likely, tells us that they want us to look for the option that is like the best of the best, the most possible one, the one that is likely over all others. In doing so, we can do the process of elimination. Now, there are 4 options given to us: an airport, a train station, an old boat train, and a house in London. Using the process of elimination, right away options A and D would be eliminated because we know from reading the extract that it is not at an airport and it is not at a house in London. Therefore, we're left with 2 options: a train station and old boat train. We need to now decide which of these settings are most likely the best option for the setting for this extract. So what I suggest, we're going to scroll up to the extract to see what evidence we can pick up on, what clues are given for us to select the setting. Now, if we go all the way up to the stage direction given at the top, it says Moses is in Waterloo Station. Right away, we know that the setting is at a station in London, Waterloo. We know also that he is waiting for the boat train at the station in London. So we have 2 pieces of information there. We have another piece in the dialogue right here that Moses says, and we also have another piece of information given to us at the stage direction in lines 20. The station loudspeaker announces the arrival of the boat train. So right away, we know that they are at a station. So now we go back to the question that says a train station and an old boat train. We can now eliminate option C, because based on the information given, B would be the most likely answer for the setting, and also based on the evidence that we see in the extract. Let us now move on to question 2. So the answer for A, for number 1, is B. Number 2, Moses' description of Tolroy's dwelling as a 2x4, line 9, indicates to the audience that it is a... Now, there are 4 options again: a wooden structure, A; B, tenement dwelling; C, squatter settlement; and D, small confined space. Now, when the question actually gives you a line, I suggest that you go back to the line and read it before you even select your answer. So let us do that. The question is saying, based on the description or Moses' description of where Tolroy lives, his description of where Tolroy lives is described as a 2x4. What does it mean to us, the audience? What does that indicate or tell us about his dwelling? So we're not trying to find out where he lives. We're trying to find out some sort of description about his living situation, right? So let's go to line 9. Line 9 says, let's start at the top. All you fellows really have guts. Yes, Tolroy? Where you gonna put she? In that 2x4 you have in our road? Now, right away, when we look at the options given from the question and we look at what is said in line 9, let's go back to question 2, we know it would not be a wooden structure because we're looking for a description. What the description that is given about a 2x4 tells us about is where he lives. So we know that option A would be out. We know that also B would be out because it does not, the extract does not tell us anything about a tenement dwelling or make reference to that. Neither does it speak about a squatter settlement. Now, what it tells us, the description of a 2x4 tells us that it is obviously small. It is small because he questions him. He says, where you gonna put she? Meaning, where are you going to find space to put your mother? clearly because where you live is already at 2 before. It is too small for both of you. And again, based on what we already know from the extract, he is looking somewhere to house his mother and himself because clearly where he lives is a 2 before. So the answer for number 2 is D. Let us move on to number 3. Number 3 says, the best explanation of the dramatic effect of the loudspeaker mentioned in the stage direction, the second stage direction, lines 20 to 21, is that the options given are, it increases the feeling of expectancy, encourages the characters to be quiet, announces the arrival and departure, reinforces the hustle and bustle of the setting. Now, I want you to pay attention to this part of the question, dramatic effect, right? Now, this is important in us understanding the question. It says the best explanation, and notice the word best is also again in all caps, meaning that the top of the top, out of all the options given, which one would we say carries more weight? So the best explanation of the dramatic effect, we need to understand what a dramatic effect is. Now, a dramatic effect is created or intended to create curiosity in us, in our audience. Remember, it's a play, should be performed, so we, the readers, are really the audience. It is intended to create curiosity in the audience. It should grab the readers' attention to whatever is happening on stage. Now, whether it has to do with the lighting, the music, the staging, the costume, whatever it might be, we are supposed to, it should have some sort of impact on us and make us, a little bit more curious on what is happening on stage. Now, let us go to lines 20 and 21 to see what was said, and based on the question, which the best explanation that would, the best explanation of the dramatic effect of the loudspeaker mentioned in the second stage direction. So which of these options given would be the best way to explain the purpose of the second stage direction given? So line 20 and 21 says, now remember, we know that they are at a train station and we know what happens at a station. We know what happens when you get on the loudspeaker and they say, the station loudspeaker announces the arrival of the boat train. An English reporter comes up to them. Now, the fact that we know that he's waiting on his mother and he is at the station waiting, we can now assume that it would not be to increase the feeling of expectancy, because he is already expecting her. So there is no, and the passage, the extract does not tell us that he is anxious to see her. He knows that she's there. What he might be anxious for is where he's going to put her. That's why he wants to find somewhere. So option A would be out. It would not be B because it says encourages the characters to be quiet. That is definitely out of it. So let's cross it out. C, announces their arrival and departures. We know that the purpose of the loudspeaker, of course, is to announce the arrival and departure, but it says the best explanation. What is the reason? What is the real reason for the stage direction in lines 20 and 21? It would be to reinforce the hustle and bustle of the setting. Meaning, at a train station, you expect persons to be going from, to, and fro, moving quickly. You know, that idea of at a train station, which is the setting, you expect persons to always be moving and going. So the stage direction, which says the loudspeaker announces the arrival of the boat train, it reinforces what really happens at a train station, and again reinforces the setting where they are. So that would be the best explanation for the dramatic effect, to have us pay attention to the train that is coming. So the answer for number 3 would be D. Let's go to number 4. Number 4 says, Which of the following mostly contributes to humor in the extract? Now, I love this part because when we talk about humor, we talk about it does not always mean that someone has to laugh. You know, when something humorous, you don't have to burst out in big laughter and whatever. It could just be seen as funny, or, it could be seen as humorous, even in a sarcastic way. The options given are the next time will be my departure, please, Godline. For A chair, a table, and he hitting you anything from 3 to 5 guineas. C, what you want. Belgrovia, Park Lane, maybe you want to put you up at the Dorchester. And D, do you believe that the streets are paved with gold? Now, this one should be easy. It should be easy because we know something about the characters. The character is looking for somewhere to stay. As he's waiting on his mother at the boat train station, he wants to find somewhere to put her. But in the extract, we see when he is told that, your Jamaican countryman over there waiting for tenants, suggesting that, hey, tell Roy, you can go, talk to this Jamaican countryman, and since he's a countryman, you might get a good deal. He obviously does not want to live there. He says what the setup like, looking at the idea that he don't want to live at a place like that gonna only have a chair and a table, and he has to pay so much for it. In that time, probably so much. He's looking at what it will cost. So again, suggesting that, he can't afford it. And if this is all that is in the house, a chair and a table, and it is so expensive, makes us know that him not have no money, him poor like a church mouse. But then the fact that he is saying that or suggesting that this is Jamaican countrymen and any other place that or any other options that he has been given is too expensive. Him not want to go there. He is not interested in it. He says down there too grim. So what follows is seen as humorous. Where you want, Carrara? Belgrovia, Park Lane? Now, if we know anything about London, we know that all of these places listed are places for people who have money, for the elites, persons who are seen as affluent, them pocket deep. They can afford it. So the fact that he is saying to his friend, you want to carry your mother here, so you want to carry her to, Belgrovia, Park Lane, Dorchester, carry her there and let her stay. Because if you can't afford where up at Dunkirk and up at Brixton, or you go afford here. So if up these places are too good for you, then take her there. So let's go back to the question. Question 4, we know now that options A is out. There is no humor attached to that. B also really has no humor. And D, it could be seen as humorous, but it is more sarcastic than humor. So the option for the answer for 4 would be C, what you want. Belgrovia, Park Lane, maybe you could put her up at the Dorchester. So that is that line mostly contributes to the humor in the extract. And we looked at why. Question 5. Question 5 says, the expression waiting like a hawk for the tenants is effective in. No, when we talk about effective, it means to produce a desired result. So whatever the playwright's intention, we need to find out, was he able to accomplish the result? What he wanted to say, what he wanted us to pay attention to, what he wanted us to get. Was the expression waiting like a hawk, was it effective? Did we get the picture that was being painted? The next question is, what picture is being painted waiting like a hawk? Now, when we think about a hawk, we think about, or the image that is being created could be, a violent bird that attracts its prey, or, that attacks its prey, as well as having the ability, to use its intuition, to attack when it thinks it is best. Now, when we go back to lines 11 and 12, we see it says, one of your Jamaican countrymen over there waiting like a hawk for tenants. Now, the fact that the Jamaican countryman is standing at the boat train station waiting for a hawk, like waiting for tenants like a hawk, and we know that Telroy, like others, are looking places to stay. The boat train is coming in with persons who are coming into London, possibility that they will need somewhere themselves to live. Now let us go back to the options given. Now, as I pointed out before, when we think about a hawk, we think about a bird that is waiting on the right time to attack. The image created in this particular situation is that just like a hawk who waits on the right time to attack, it pays attention to its prey, it looks carefully and notice what it is doing and when it is doing what and knows when to attack. The Jamaican man, who is businessman, who is waiting like a hawk, is watching the persons who are coming off of the train station, looking at them closely before he can walk up to them and possibly try to rent them a room. Now, the question says, why is the expression effective? Did we see that image that was being created? Now, the answer would not be A, because A says highlights the fear of the immigrants. That the expression does not do that for us, or should not. Pointing out the birds that flock, that B is out of it, definitely so. Process of elimination, that's out as well. Emphasizing birds of a prey as a metaphor. That is also not the answer, because remember, we're talking about the fact that was the expression effective? Were we able to see the imagery of the man waiting, just like how a hawk would wait for its prey and then attack at the right time? The answer for 5 would be reinforcing the aggressive nature of the business of being a landlord and trying to find tenants and the whole process that it involves. Let us go to number 6. So the answer for number 5 is D. Number 6 says, which of the following are used to indicate that the extract portrays a Caribbean experience? Now, this should be easy for us. Process of elimination, we see language and diction. We see the language. We see the I, Telroy. We see the 2x4. What else do we see? We see when he speaks to the reporter, we see when his mother actually arrives, we see all of that as a part of the language, and we see even the special dictions that makes them Caribbean, that sets them apart from the others who might be there, and even sets them apart from the white reporter, making us know that they are Caribbean. The answer could not also be B. It could not be C, and it would not be D. So the only answer that we're left with for number 6 is A. Let's do number 7. Number 7 says, one of the themes in this extract is, this one is easy. Traveling by air, no, it doesn't talk about that. Dependent country, no, it really does not talk about that, because we do not see where London is giving back to the Caribbean. We don't see that. We see migration. Now, if that was there, then we see searching for a better life, yes, migration. So again, migrating to other countries in search of somewhere or something that is better opportunities. Overpopulation and exploitation, that would not also be one of the themes in the extract. So the answer for number 7 would be C. Number 8 says, Moses' response to the reporter suggests that no. The options given are A, he's ignorant, B, he's being sarcastic, C, misunderstood the question asked, and D, fears the reporter might embarrass him. Now, I know that a lot of you right away probably is thinking, oh, Moses ignorant because of how he answered the question and possibly what he said. if we look at Moses' interaction between himself and the reporter, now let us quickly just jump back there, where the reporter asks him the very first question. He says, "Excuse me, you just arrived. Have you just arrived?" Moses did not just arrive. Clearly, Moses has been living there for a while. So right away, we know that Moses is probably telling a little bit a lie. And then the reporter asks, "What are the conditions?" And Moses told him, egg him on and say, "Tell him, man, tell him." Moses respond by saying, he was living in a mansion and the roof blow off. And the conversation goes on. So we know from this that Moses is not ignorant. We know that Moses possibly is being more sarcastic because even the way he responded to the reporter. Now, further on down in the conversation, the reporter says, "Do you believe the streets are paved with gold?" And Moses responds, makes a little joke up here and he talks about the fact that, I see Baywater road sparkling with diamonds. And then he says, "Oh, but when he looks again, it's just gravel mix up. Gravel and asphalt, same thing that exists also in the Caribbean." So we see that Moses is witty. Moses is witty, and in his response, it shows that he is being very, very sarcastic. So the answer for number 8 is B. Let's move on to number 9. Number 9 question says, Tolvar's reaction to his family's arrival is best described as. Again, we see the word best in all caps. Focus on it. Why do you focus on it? Because it means then that CXC has put more than one options in this that could be the answer. It's almost like a trick. It's almost a way to divert you from the correct answer. But don't be confused. Focus on the question, understand the question, and interpret what is being asked. Tolroy's reaction to his family's arrival is best described as the way that he responded. How would you best describe it? It would not be shock and relief. He was shocked. We did not see him being relieved that his mother was there, and he is not relieved because he is more shocked that his mother brought the entire family. So A is out. Joyfulness and longing, that is definitely out. Process of elimination would have us take that out right away. C says anxiety and anticipation. He probably was anxious for them to come, and this is why he kept looking for the boat train to show up. But anticipation, that does not best show his reaction. So while one word could work, the other one does not really tie in. Now, the last option is D, amazement and confusion. Now, if we look at lines 45, it says in consternation. Now, that is a strong word, because when we think about the word in consternation, we think about a feeling of anxiety and dismay. So you're anxious, but you're shocked. Now, notice that the stage direction that will tell us in consternation. So, we know he's going to look shocked. He's going to be in disbelief because he does not expect what he sees. And what he has seen is his mother, his sister, Tanti, Agnes, and Louise, and the children. So he's already living in a 2x4, and now he sees the entire family. So he is now more likely in amazement and confusion that he has seen the entire family. He did not expect to see them. Last question in this item, it says, how do the stage directions in lines 42 to 44, chuckling and in consternation, function as an effective guide to the reaction on stage? Now, I just basically gave you a little definition of what in consternation means, and talk about the whole amusement and confusion, not expecting to see them there. And we look at chuckling. Chuckling, means you laugh, you laugh inside. So it isn't a laugh that comes out; it's just an inside laugh that gives you that sound. Now, when it says how do stage direction I remember now when we talk about stage direction, always take the time to go back to the lines to read the stage direction. 42, 44. So let's jump back. Lines 42 says, chuckling, watch him. So this is Moses laughing at the reporter who is going to now talk to a family that's coming off of the train. So Moses is happy. And then Moses is happy, not even realizing, that is Moses is laughing. And then Tolroy, in shock, he says, oh, that's your mother. So the question is saying to us, how is it that the stage direction given, one, happiness, then quickly dismay and, confusion, how does it function as an effective guide to what is happening on stage? Now let us look at the options that are given. A says they present an indifferent emotional response. B, they shift the mood from carefree to anticipation. C, they heighten the suspense about Tolroy's family. And D, they provide a sense of local community in London. If we're doing the process of elimination, we know right away that D is out of it. And we also know that A is out. So those two options are out right away. So we have options B and C to work with. I would not select C, they heighten the suspense about Tolroy's family, because it is talking about, the question is talking about the effectiveness, the function of the two-stage direction given. Now, one, he is chuckling, means that he is in happy mood, and then the next character is anxious. He is shocked, he's beyond disbelief, which now means that the mood has changed. So the answer for number 10 would be B, a shift in the mood from carefree to anticipation. So the answer for number 10 would be B. Now, let us move on to the next drama piece. I'm also going to give you 2 minutes to read the extract. All right, 2 minutes is up. Let's go to questions 11. Question 11 says, the stage direction in the opening section, lines 1 to 7, reveals that the meeting between Nora and Mrs. Lindy is A, cheerful, B, awkward, C, purposeful, D, businesslike. Now remember, your task as a student who will be sitting the exam, I pointed out, understand the question, understand and the interpretation of the question. Now the question says stage direction. I remember I did point out earlier in the beginning of the video that the drama questions, sometimes they will ask you questions about the setting. Most of the drama questions might be about like the setting, characterization, character relationship, dramatic effect, and questions like those. So don't be surprised when you see a lot of questions about stage direction and things like that. It's normal to see these questions. So going to the exam, expecting questions like these and understanding beforehand, how to identify stage direction, etc. So let's jump to lines 1 to 7. Now, lines 1 to 7, which is all of this, it says, the maid shows in Mrs. Linde dressed in her traveling clothes and shuts the door. In a dispirited and somewhat hesitant voice, she says, hello, Nora. Nora is uncertain and she says, hello. Mrs. Linda says, you don't recognize me? Nora says, no, I don't know. But wait, I think, what, Christine? Is that really you? Yes, it's me. Christine? To think I didn't recognize you. So let's go down to the options now, since we've read lines 1 to 7. Now it says, the stage direction in the opening line 1 to 7, what does it reveal about the two characters meeting? Does it tell us that they were cheerful? No. Does it tell us that they were purposeful? No. Does it tell us that they were businesslike? No. It does show us that they were awkward. One don't remember the other one remembers her, the next one takes a while to remember, and that kind of confusion and awkwardness between them. So the answer for number 11 is B. Number 12, the audience is made aware of the season through the reference to. Now, this is easy. This is one of those easy options that you get. Traveling and a coat, no. The cold and the Christmas, we could say that's an answer, but let's look at the others. Christmas and the long trip. D, fireplaces and traveling clothes. Right away, all of these options are kind of close. So we're going to look, at the one that makes reference to. We know that it was Christmas and we know that it was cold. If we go up into the extract, it's one of those very long extracts. We go up into the extract, we see where she says, it is so long, it's been so long since we've met. Then she continues, let me go down just a little bit more. She says to enjoy yourself over Christmas, of course. And we know, Christmas is normally one of those, December is normally one of the colder months of the year. And then further on in lines 15, she says, take off your coat, you're still cold, and it goes down. So right away, we know the answer for number 11 is B, the cold and Christmas. Those two options make us aware of the season that the story is set in. Let's go to number 13. And don't worry, students, I'm going to, put up the answer at the end. For those of you who might have trouble following, the answers will also be posted at the end of the video, at the end of all videos. So it makes it easier for you as well. Question number 13. The question says, from the extract, the audience learns that Trovald worked hard and was a good provider, resigned his job in order to marry Nora, overworked himself and could not travel, was promoted at the office after his marriage. Now, we know the answer for this one. It did tell us in the extract. Right after reading, we read this information about Trovald. So it says, and let's find the answer. The answer is worked hard and was a good provider. Let's find it. She says, you remember that Choval left the department when we were married. So we know that he did not resign after in order to marry her because they were already married. Then it says there was no chance or promotion. So we know that it could not be D because he was not promoted after his marriage. And it says, and of course, he needed to earn extra money, but that first year he drove himself terribly. He took on all kinds of extra work, and that kept him going morning and night. So we know that the answer is A. He worked himself and was a good provider. So he left the job and he took on all sorts of jobs so that he could get to provide for his family. So the answer for number 13 is A. Let's go to number 14. Which of the following adjectives best describe Nora? Now, this is a good one. It says aloof and meek, warm and hospitable, focused and forgetful, light-headed and generous. This one is also one of those easy options, although the question says best describer. When we think of all the options given, we would have to select letter B for the answer because we saw her being warm and we saw her being hospitable to her dear friend. So let's jump into number 15. We don't even have to linger on number 14. Number 15 says, the best explanation of the dramatic impact created by the lines, and he left you nothing. Feed on, lines 25 to 30, is that they. Now, again, we see the word best is in all caps. And I did say to you, when you see words in all caps, in bold or underlined, or even in italics, pay attention to it, because it could mean, or it means that other options in the options given as answers could possibly work, but you're looking for the one that is, of the highest level, the top of the top, the one that gives you the most likely answer. So let's look for the best explanation for the dramatic impact. Also, when you see dramatic impact and dramatic effect and stuff, they are similar for the most part. So I don't have to go over that with you. Now, the options given are create a lighthearted atmosphere, provide comic relief to the audience, understate the conflict between the characters, and heighten the intrigue about Mrs. Lindy's situation. Now, lines 25 to 30. Even without going to lines 25 to 30, it says, and he left you nothing. Now, right away, we get curious because we want to know what? Really? How come? Is that possible? Girl, tell me more. And so it makes us, somewhat, interested in what this woman is interested in this woman's life. So let's jump up to lines 25 to 30. Again, this extract is so long. So she says, no. She says, poor Christine, you've become a widow. You poor thing. How much you must have gone through. And he left you nothing? And then she says, no. And the children? No, nothing at all. Not even a sense of loss to feel on. So you see right away, the only option that could possibly work for number 15 is right in her face. It heightens the intrigue about her situation. It makes us want to know more. I want to know why this man don't leave you nothing. Why I'm not leaving kids nothing? Because, as parents, we automatically always want to leave something for our kids. And if you're married or you have a spouse, you want to try to provide for them. And so if he has left you nothing, not even you, the children, it makes you interested in her situation. So the answer for number 15 is D. Number 16, it says Mrs. Lindy's role is significant because the options given are adds to the setting and becomes a part of the props. No. Process of elimination would have us eliminate that. Then it says B is contrasted to Miss Nora representing all that she's not. Possibly. C says symbolizes perfection and travel to foreign countries. No. D says is a valuable friend to Miss Nora and has become supportive and has been supportive. The only answer for this, for number 16, would be B. When we look at the role of Mrs. Lindy, we see that her role is important because what it does is it shows one character as all of this, and then the next character as nothing like this, or one character as way up there and the next as way down here. One being rich, one being poor, one husband leaving her everything, or one having a good life and kids, one kids leaving her, gone about them business, don't care, etc., etc. So the answer for number 16 would be D. I hope that you're following along, students, and you're not lost. And I hope that you are, enjoying the session for the most part. So let's go to number 17. We have 3 questions left to complete for the drama section. The best explanation of the function of Nora's speech in lines 48 to 51, yes, blah, 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 my marriage is that. Now, again, remember I told you, when you get the question and it gives you a line or lines, go back, return to the line. So let us look at the options before we return. A, serves to outline her financial situation. B, helps to develop her character as a devoted mother. C, makes the audience aware of the present tension in her marriage. And D, alerts the audience to her sense of loss created by her father's death. No, it says the best explanation of the function of Miss Nora's speech. So let us go and look at what Miss Nora's speech is. And when we return to it, we need to be focusing on the best explanation. What is the function of Miss Nora's speech? What did Miss Nora's speech let us know, or let us know about the play? What did it do for us as the audience? How did it impact us? What information did it provide for us? So let us go back to lines 48 to 51. So lines 48 would begin right here. She says, I see. It was just about the time your father died. Yes, just about then. And you know, I couldn't make the trip out to nurse him. So obviously we know that Nora's father is sick, and she says, you know, her father was sick. She could not get out to nurse him. And then she says, I had to stay here, expecting Ivar any moment. And with my expecting Ivar any moment, and with my poor sick traveled to care for. So obviously she was expecting a child. She probably was pregnant. Her husband was sick because he had worked so hard trying to cater for their needs. So she says, dearest Papa, I never saw him again, Christine. Oh, that was the worst time I've known in all my marriage. So let us now go back to the options that are given. So we know it is not A because it does not outline her financial situation. She was well off for the most part because her husband had worked so hard and had obviously given them a good life. B says helps to develop her character as a devoted mother. This does not speak to her or does not speak to her character as a mother. It does not focus on her character as a mother. So the function of her speech would not be for B. C says makes the audience aware of the present tension in her marriage. Her speech does not talk about any tension in her marriage. She says it was a difficult time in her marriage because yes, her husband was sick and her father was dying or was sick and she could not nurse him. And she was also, you know, obviously pregnant. So we know that it would not also be C because it does not function to highlight the tension in her marriage. The only option left is D, which is that it alerts the audience to her sense of loss created by her father's death. Her father died. She was unable to come out and take care of him. Her father was sick, rather. She could not come out and take care of him. She could not do so either, even if she wanted to, because she was pregnant. She had a sick husband. And so overall, it just makes us know that, you know, her father's death really did affect her. And she did say it in the end. She said, that it was the worst, dearest Papa. I never saw him again. So we know that, you know, just imagine your father was sick and has died and you have not seen him, even at his death. So you know that it must have been terrible for her. And as such, that is the best explanation for her speech. Number 18 says, what is the main theme in this extract? This one is very easy. We could eliminate everything except D, except C, my apologies, except C. It is not about death and rebirth, neither gender awareness, neither wealth and longing. The options given, you know, they could not work. Marriage and family, yes, it's all about marriage, all about family. Both females talk about their marriage, talk about their family, and in that they talk about themselves. Let's go to number 19. So the answer for number 18 is C. Number 19 says, the real reason for Mrs. Lindy's trip is to, it would not be to visit Nora and her family because she didn't even know that she was there. It would not be to return to that desolate hole. The desolate hole would be to return to the world outside, and she does not want to return there. It would not be to travel overseas after 10 years. No, that is definitely out. If we were doing the process of elimination, we're left with option D, which is obtain a job and start a new life. If we look back at the extract, the very last line, she says it. She says, no, only unspeakable empty. So she's saying that she feel, Nora says, you must be free, you know, your kid's not bothering you, you know, you can live your own life. She says, no, unspeakably empty, nothing to live for. That's why I couldn't take it any longer out in that desolate hole, suggesting, you know, out into the world. She couldn't manage it out there. So she says, maybe here I'll be happier to find something to do and keep my mind occupied. And so we see that she's trying to find a job to do and she wants to actually start over her or life. Last question. Number 20 says, the most suitable title for this extract would be, of course, B, Friends Reunited. So that is it for the first 20 questions of the paper. And we're going to move on into the next part of the paper, which is the poetry section. Please remember to follow me on YouTube, share my page, share it with your classmates. We know that exam is right around the corner, and we do know that you will need all the help that you can get. So